I'm Corbitt with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, September 23rd, brought to you in part by Kansas Regenerative Medical Center. If you can't get excited about the downtime and the risks of surgery, consider stem cell treatment. These guys are pioneers in the industry. For more information, go to kansasrmc.com. Also, Beaver County Stockyards in Beaver, Oklahoma. Another big sale for them this week. They already had 730 head of cows on Monday. Coming up on Tuesday, they've got 6,000 head of feeder cattle and calves. They're going to have about 2,800 calves there. 4 to 6 weights for the most part. Not a whole lot of them weaned. They've got one big consignment of nearly 300 weaned calves from the Griswolds. They've got some that are 60 days weaned, some that are 100 days weaned, and then another set that's not weaned. They've got 225 head unweaned but fancy calves from Pampa, another 120 head of unweaned fancy calves from Panhandle, Texas, and 120 unweaned but real fancy ranch calves from McLean, Texas. So there'll be a lot of fancy calves and fresh off the cow, not stale and been standing around for a long time, guys. They got 12 to 1,300 yearling heifers. Todd Poling from over around Clayton, New Mexico, has got 455 head of yearling heifers coming in right off the grass, guys. They've got a 630 head consignment of yearlings. It'll be mostly steers, but some heifers from Fort Stockton, Texas. The condition on these cattle is very attractive. I mean, these cattle are ready to go on feed and just kick it when they get there, guys. Come from way down in Fort Stockton, Texas. That's a long haul anywhere, guys. About 2,300 yearling steers in all. They're going to have several real nice consignments. The Radcliffes are going to have several cattle in there. They'll have around 600 head of yearling feeder steers. A lot of them will be 9 weights, some of them be 10 weights. Got a fancy load of steers from over around Tulsa. They're just coming into Beaver from everywhere, guys, and got a big run for you. Be very attractive. Check them out on DVAuction.com. Border closed indefinitely. And this time Brooke Rollins, Secretary of Agriculture, she wasn't messing around whenever she made her statement, and I believe it was on Sunday night actually, or that's when it come out. She was talking about the screwworms and saying that they had discovered a case just 70 miles south of the Texas border. That's getting a little bit too close for comfort there. She made several strong statements in her report there. She said that this border safety on cattle and health from the New World screwworm is a top priority of the Trump administration. It is indeed a national security priority. So she's putting that on, I mean, way up there on a high level of awareness. She stated that she has been disappointed in Mexico and that they had been given every opportunity to clean this up on their end and every resource that we could help them with to help get this cleaned up. They have done next to nothing about this. They continue to let cattle pour in from Central America. They had cattle coming in from Guatemala not long ago. All of those high humidity, high heat places where the screwworm is rampant, and not worried too much at all about moving cattle around within the country of Mexico and stirring that up indeed way too close for comfort for us. So, you know, when is it going to happen? We're not even talking about the border reopening. It's going to be closed. It's going to be closed for the rest of this year, calendar year. Not sure if at some point next year, after she gets this facility built in South Texas, after they start releasing these sterile flies, and after that starts working, before they're going to consider reopening the border. So everybody that's been waiting on pins and needles for the border to reopen for cattle to cross, they can stop thinking about it for a while. And that includes Texas Cattle Feeders Association and their bullhorn NCBA. She's not paying a bit of attention to what they're telling her, even though they're the ones that have all the lobbyist money. But she seems to know what she wants to do there. And we found out just on Friday's Cattle on Feed report, our cattle on feed inventories in Texas are way down. They're almost 10% less than last year at this time. The placements were only 82% of a year ago. They haven't been stepping up to the plate and buying some of these expensive cattle at these all-time high prices to fill those empty pens back up in Texas. So either they're going to have to quit feeding cattle or figure out something else to do, because if they're not willing to pay the prices that these feeder cattle are costing for their placements, they're not going to be getting any cattle from Texas or from Mexico coming into Texas for a long, long time. So what are you going to do? Another thing that Brooke Rollins said, the Secretary of Agriculture, in that statement that kind of scares me and some other people that are concerned with this, she said that the USDA is going to help rebuild the American cattle supply, incentivizing ranchers, and this is scary. So what are they going to do? We hadn't heard for sure yet, but it sounds like they're going to be paying ranchers to retain heifers or to keep cows. So I guess the beef industry is going to get like the row crops and the dairies. They're going to be on the gimme. They're going to be on the cheese checks. They're going to be supplemented there, and that is scary. Well, when that stuff gets introduced, it jacks with your markets. You don't know what to say. If these ranchers haven't been incentivized by this market over the last 2 years to keep heifers back, no amount of money that she's going to be able to give them is going to incentivize them. And I'm sure a lot of you guys that want to get this money are saying, hey, don't say anything about that. It's never a good deal. They don't have signs up at Yellowstone Park saying don't feed the bears because they're afraid you're going to get your arm bit off whenever you're feeding a bear. They put those signs up because they don't want the bears to get used to you feeding them, and then he can't support himself. And that goes for agriculture too. It's ridiculous the way that the farming industry, row crops, have become a slave. Once they put those payments from the government in their farm system, they've lost it. When they're relying on that, and the same with the dairies too. The beef industry has gotten a little bit of that through them supplementing your LRPs, but that's been kind of a good thing. But if they're going to start giving money to keep heifers back or to keep cows, or I'm not sure how they're going to do it, we're no longer going to be able to just track markets with supply and demand anymore, because that jacks up the whole thing. I mean, a lot of these ranchers, beef cattle ranchers, won't even know about it if it happens. A lot of the others won't know about how to get those payments. I give you an idea. You just follow your neighbor that row crops, or the guy down the road that dairies, and follow them around for a little while. They'll pull into an FSA office. They stop in there every time they go to town, guys. They just get so, it's like welfare. I mean, they got to have it. And I for one, just hate to see it come into the beef industry, but they're going to do what they want to do. But let's check out your board. Of course, it went straight up when they put out that information late on Sunday. So Monday morning, I mean, it took right off. It's especially your feeder cattle futures. But October live cattle futures were up 357 on Monday, ending the session at 237.15. December was up 450 at 240.22. Your back months on live cattle up 272 to up 490. Feeder cattle for September, of course, it's got to stay close to the index levels. It can't fly way off the handle. It was up 357 at 362.72. October feeder cattle contracts up 7 1/4 at 361.35. And then your back months, November was up 897, and then all the others were locked up the limit, up the 9 1/4 limit. I mean, that just goes to show, you know, we don't have any kind of a timeline for opening up that border to cattle coming across from Mexico, and now talking about giving a cheese check for guys to keep heifers back. I mean, the cattle market has always been monitored by the market, you know, and then that's been the way that you know, it's responded to supply and demand is with prices. You're going to get something else in there, and it's going to mess it up. Let's talk about your weighted average on last week's negotiated fed cattle trade out of your 4-area feeding region. 46,600 head last week trade, compared to 50,300 the previous week and 68,900 the same week a year ago. Prices of live fat steers and heifers negotiated in the 5 area from $235 to $240, steady to $2 lower. Your weighted average on live steers, $237.51. That was down $175 compared to the previous week's weighted average. Dress sales had a price range from $365 to $376. That was $2 to $8 lower. Your weighted average on dress steers was $370.88, down $5.26 from the previous week. As a whole, your negotiated market in the Southern Plains was steady at $240. Northern Plains $1 to $3 lower, from $236 to $238. And dress sales 2 to 7 lower, from $368 up to $375. Let's talk about your nationwide trade negotiated. 56,700 compared to 61,300 the previous week. 87,000 the same week a year ago. Of that 56,700, about 6,100, or only 11%, were bought with time, with that 2 to 4 week delivery. So I mean, this market get away from these packers right here, guys. Negotiated grid sales totaled 28,500 head last week. Forward contracts totaled 15,800 head, and formula sales last week 231,500 head. Negotiated sales in your 4-area feeding region. Iowa had 17,850 negotiated sales last week. Nebraska 17,800, almost the same. Kansas 6,900, and Texas 4,100. Box beef cutout values started out the week mixed after being sharply lower last week. Choice cuts were down 66 cents at $381.39. Selects are actually up $2.17 at $362.09. Not a lot of select product out there, guys. Your slaughter, estimated cattle slaughter for the first day of the week, 110,000, exactly the same as last Monday. 8,000 less than the same Monday a year ago. Talk about your punchy pick of the month contest. That is coming up pretty fast, guys. It's always right on the cusp here, and it's coming up pretty quick. Of course, we got the Kids Corral. That's sponsored by Great Plains Livestock Consulting. Those guys can help you out. Probably pay for their fees just by procuring your feedstuffs, guys. Beaver County Stockyards there, always been a sponsor of the Punchy Pick of the Month contest. And then, of course, Fair Piece, they donate a whole case of Fair Piece every month to the winner of the Punchy Pick of the Month contest. If you get a Punchy Pick, just email it to punchy at NationalBeefWire.com. You're automatically entered. Talking about what else is going on. Valley Grande Ranch Feeders. That's in Lodgepole, South Dakota. That's the Archibald brothers up there. I tell you what, that's a family operation, been around since 1965. They want your balling calves. They want to straighten out and grow your balling calves in their facilities there. Their waters are clean enough for you and I to drink out of. And it's an ideal location. They've got great feed there. And they're right between the western ranches and the Corn Belt. It's a good place to stop off and leave them for 60 days or so and then put some weight on them, get them all straightened out, guys. For more information to be able to send your calves in there, go to archbro, archbro.com. Talk about your feeder cattle market, brought to you by Specialty Risk Insurance. They are working to protect your livelihood. Your real-time index late in the day on Monday, after all your feeder cattle auctions had concluded, sitting at 361.23. That was up 328. Your steer tracker, which is the last 25 lots of 5 head or bigger that go in that real-time index, was 373.88. Of course, it's not a 7A moving average like your RTI is, but it was running good. Cattle were selling really good. CME Cash Feeder Cattle Index kind of finally come out and finally posted some losses seen last week. It was sitting at 358.78. Your big sales on Monday, of course, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma National Stockyards had 4,800 head. Market was sharply higher there. Feeder steers sold steady to 5 higher. Feeder heifers were $2 to $6 higher. Steer calves 10 to 20 higher, and heifer calves 15 to 25 bucks a hundred higher, guys. Really good sale in Oklahoma City. How about Joplin Regional Stockyards? You know, you hardly ever see a market underestimate their receipts. On Sunday, Joplin was saying they were going to have 7,500 head. They underestimated by 1,700. Many markets would love to have the number of cattle that they underestimate by. They ended up with 9,200 head on Monday for their auction. Of course, they were prepared for them. Market was on fire. Steers sold from $5 to $20 higher. 7-weight steers up to $25 higher. Heifers sold steady to $10 higher. Snappy sale at Joplin Regional Stockyards was your Superior Steel Sales, home of Superior Standard Livestock Equipment, stick-out sale of the day. You look at this automated market report from Cattle Market Central and you see most all your weights were well tested there. I'm going to go through them. You guys can listen, follow along if you like. 458 head of 4-weight steer calves at JRS, average 466 with a weighted average price of 420.73. Some of them might not have been the prettiest. 722 head of 5-weight steer calves, average 554 at 416.35. 831 head of the 6-weight steers, average 649 at 392.91. Wow. 1,672 head of 7-weight steer calves, average 753 pounds with a weighted average price of 384.15. There were 1,442 head of the 8-weight feeder steers in Joplin. They averaged 839 with a weighted average price of 359.92, and 466 head of the 9-weight steers averaged 945 at 341.40. Look at some of your heifers. 505 head of the 4-weight heifer calves averaged 460 pounds at 389.90. 570 head of the 5-weight heifers averaged 544 at 372.34. 593 head of the 6-weight heifers averaged 658 at 352.97. And 1,045 head of 7-weight feeder heifers, Joplin Regional Stockyards, had an average weight of 750 pounds on the button and a weighted average price of 344.09. Joplin did have our big stick out sale. It'll be at the end of the report. Get some market individual quotes from all over. How about another one in northwest Missouri at Tina Livestock, Tina, Missouri. 58 steers weighed 927 at 351.35. Got that quote from my old buddy Dwayne Penny. How about way out northwest? Go to Central Oregon Livestock Auction at Trent Stewart sale. 64 head of steers weighed 704 in Madras, Oregon, and bring 426. Wow. How about Rugby Livestock in Rugby, North Dakota? Going up to North Dakota here to Napoleon later in the week. You guys, if you can get around over there, get around. They're having a big special sale on Thursday at Napoleon. But in Rugby, North Dakota, they sold 63 steers on Monday, weighed 842 at 380. Big time quote there. How about Russell Livestock Market in Russell, Iowa? They sold 70 lightweight steer calves. They weighed 453 pounds at 540 in Russell, Iowa. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Monday, and your Macrocin, no BS, top quote for the day, indeed come out of Joplin Regional Stockyards. They get all classes there. They get them so fancy, and they can sell them all the way at the top of the market quotes or somewhere down in the middle. But they had some steers come in there from Bartlesville, Oklahoma. They'd just been running out, hadn't been getting a bite of feed. They were black, they were gant, they were thin, they had quality. They were just exactly what the buyers like. There were 336 head of them. They weighed 772 and brought $403 per hundredweight. They were professionally purchased by a fella named Max Barkley from Scottsboro, Alabama. And that's your feeder flash for Tuesday.